Discworld is a comic fantasy book series written by the English writer Terry Pratchett, set on the fictional Discworld, a flat disc balanced on the backs of 4 elephants which, in turn, stand on the back of a giant turtle, Great Atuin. The books frequently parody, or take inspiration from, J.R.R. Tolkien, Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft and William Shakespeare, as well as mythology, folklore and fairy tales, often using them for satirical parallels with current cultural, political and scientific issues. The series is popular, with more than 80 million books sold in 37 languages. Since the first novel, The Color of Magic, 40 Discworld novels have been published as of November 2013. Pratchett, who suffers from Alzheimer's disease, has said that he would be happy for his daughter Rhianna to continue the series when he is no longer able to do so. The original British editions of the first 26 novels, up to Thief of Time, had distinctive cover art by Josh Kirby. The American editions, published by Harper Collins, used their own cover art. Since Kirby's death in October 2001, the covers have been designed by Paul Kidby. Companion publications include 11 short stories, 4 popular science books, and a number of supplementary books and reference guides. In addition, the series has been adapted for graphic novels, for the theatre, as computer and board games, as music inspired by the series, and repeatedly for television. Newly released Discworld books regularly top the Sunday Times bestsellers list, making Pratchett the UK's best-selling author in the 1990s, although he has since been overtaken by Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling. Discworld novels have also won awards such as the Prometheus Award and the Carnegie Medal. In the BBC's Big Read, 4 Discworld novels were in the top 100, and a total of 14 in the top 200. Composition: very few of the Discworld novels have chapter divisions, instead featuring interweaving storylines. Pratchett is quoted as saying that he just never got into the habit of chapters, later adding that I have to shove them in the putative books because my editor screams until I do. However, the first Discworld novel, The Color of Magic, was divided into books, as is Pyramids. Additionally, Going Postal and Making Money both have chapters, a prologue, an epilogue, and brief teasers of what is to come in each chapter, in the style of A. A. Milne, Jules Verne and Jerome K. Jerome. Themes and motifs: the Discworld novels contain common themes and motifs that run through the series. Fantasy cliché copyrights are parodied in many of the novels, as are various subgenres of fantasy, such as fairy tales, witch and vampire stories and so on. Analogies of real-world issues, such as religion, business and politics, are recurring themes, as are music genres such as opera or rock music. Parodies of non-Discworld fiction also occur frequently, including Shakespeare, Beatrix Potter and several movies. Major historical events, especially battles, are sometimes used as the basis for both trivial and key events in Discworld stories, as are trends in science, technology, and pop culture. There are also humanist themes in many of the Discworld novels, and a focus on critical thinking skills in the Witches and Tiffany Aching series. Storylines: to a greater or lesser degree, Discworld stories stand alone as independent works set in the same fantasy universe. However, a number of novels and stories can be grouped together into grand story arcs dealing with a set number of characters and events, and some books refer to earlier events. The main threads within the Discworld series are: Rincewind. Rincewind was the first protagonist of Discworld. A wizard with no skill, no wizardly qualifications and no interest in heroics. He is the archetypal coward, but is constantly thrust into extremely dangerous adventures. In The Last Hero, he flatly states that he does not wish to join an expedition to explore over the edge of the Disc but, being fully geared for the expedition at the time, clarifies by saying that any amount of protesting on his part is futile, as something will eventually occur that will bring him into the expedition anyway. As such, he not only constantly succeeds in staying alive, but also saves Discworld on several occasions, and has an instrumental role in the emergence of life on Roundworld. Other characters in the Rincewind story arc include Cohen the Barbarian, an aging hero of the old fantasy tradition, out of touch with the modern world and still fighting despite his advanced age. Toffler, a naive tourist from the Agatean Empire. And the luggage, a magical, semi-sentient and exceptionally vicious multi-legged traveling accessory, made from sapient pear wood. Rincewind has appeared in 8 Discworld novels as well as the 4 Science of Discworld supplementary books. Death. Death appears in every novel except The Wee Free Men and Snuff, although sometimes with only a few lines. As dictated by tradition, he is a 7-foot-tall skeleton in a black robe who sits astride a pale horse. His dialogue is always depicted in small caps, and without quotation marks, as several characters state that Death's voice seems to arrive in their heads without actually passing through their ears as sound. As the anthropomorphic personification of Death, Death has the job of guiding souls onward from this world into the next. Over millennia in the role, he has developed a fascination with humanity, even going so far as to create a house for himself in his personal dimension. Characters that often appear with Death include his butler Albert, his granddaughter Susan Stohalit, the Death of Rats, the part of Death in charge of gathering the souls of rodents, Quoth, a talking raven, and the auditors of reality, personifications of the orderly physical laws and the closest thing Death has to a nemesis. Death or Susan appear as the main characters in 5 Discworld novels. He also appears in the short stories Death and What Comes Next, Theatre of Cruelty and Turntables of the Night. Death also appears in the non-Discworld novel Good Omens, written by Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Witches. Witches in Pratchett's universe are largely stripped of their modern occultist associations, and act as herbalists, adjudicators and wise women. That is not to say that witches on the disc cannot use magic. They simply prefer not to, finding simple but cunningly applied psychology far more effective. The principal witch in the series is Granny Weatherwax, who at first glance seems to be a taciturn, bitter old crone, from the small mountain country of Lancashire. She largely despises people but takes on the role of their healer and protector because no one else can do the job as well as she can. Her closest friend is Nanny Og, a jolly, personable witch with a common touch, who enjoys a smoke and a pint of beer, often leading to her singing several folk songs including the notorious Hedgehog song. The two take on apprentice witches, initially Magrat Garlick, then Agnes Nitt, and then Tiffany Aching, who in turn go on to become accomplished witches in their own right, and, in Magrat's case, Queen of Lancashire. Other characters in the Witches series include, King Berrance II of Lancashire, a one-time fool. Jason Og, Nanny Og's eldest son and local blacksmith. Sean Og, Nanny's youngest son who serves as his country's entire army and civil service. And Nanny's murderous cat Grebo. The witches have appeared in numerous Discworld books, but have featured as main protagonists in 7. They have also appeared in the short story The Sea and Little Fishes. Their stories frequently draw on ancient European folklore and fairy tales, and also parody famous works of literature, particularly by Shakespeare. City Watch. The stories featuring the Ankh-Morpork City Watch are urban set, and frequently show the clashes that result when a traditional, magically run fantasy world such as the Disc comes into contact with modern technology and civilization. They center around the growth of the Ankh-Morpork City Watch from a hopeless gang of 3 to a fully equipped and efficient police force. The stories are largely police procedurals, featuring crimes that have heavy political or societal overtones. The main character is Sam Vims, a haggard, cynical, working-class street copper who, when we first meet him in Guards, is the drunken alcoholic captain of the 2-person night watch, lazy, cowardly, and none too bright Sergeant Fred Colon, and Corporal Nobby Nobbs, a petty thief in his own right. Then Carrot Iron Fanderson, a 6-foot-tall dwarf by adoption, comes down from the mountains to join the watch and do real policing. The Night Watch manages to save the city from a dragon. We learn that Carrot is possibly the rightful heir to the throne of Ankh-Morpork, and the patrician decides to allow Vims to create a real police force. Other main characters include Angua, a werewolf, Detritus, a troll, Redshoe, a zombie and dead rights campaigner, Cuddy, a dwarf who appears in Men-at-Arms. Gollum Constable Dorfl. Cheery Littlebottom, the Watcher's forensics expert, who is one of the first dwarves to be openly female. Sam's wife, Lady Sybil Vims. And Havelock Veterinery, the patrician of Ankh-Morpork. The City Watch have starred in 8 Discworld stories, and have cameoed in a number of others, including the children's book, Where's My Cow? And the short story Theatre of Cruelty. Pratchett has stated on numerous occasions that the presence of the City Watch makes Ankh-Morpork stories problematic, as stories set in the city that do not directly involve Vims and the Watch often require a Watch presence to maintain the story, at which point, it becomes a Watch story by default. Wizards. The Wizards of the Unseen University have represented a strong thread through many of the Discworld novels, although the only books that they star in exclusively are the Science of the Discworld series and the novels Unseen Academicals and The Last Continent. In the early books, the faculty of UU changed frequently, as rising to the top usually involved assassination. However, with the ascension of the bombastic Mustrum Ripcully to the position of Arch-Chancellor, the hierarchy has settled and characters have been given the chance to develop. The earlier books featuring the Wizards also frequently dealt with the possible invasion of the Discworld by the creatures from the dungeon dimensions, Lovecraft monsters that hunger for the magic and potential of the Discworld. The Wizards of UU employ the traditional whiz-bang type of magic seen in Dungeons & Dragons games, but also investigate the rules and structure of magic in terms highly reminiscent of particle physics. Prominent members include Ponder Stibbons, a geeky young wizard. Hex, the Disc's first computer semi-sentient thinking engine. The Librarian, who was turned into an orangutan by magical accident. The Dean. The Bursar. The Chair of Indefinite Studies. The Lecturer in Recent Runes. And the Senior Wrangler. In later novels, Rincewind also joins their group, while the Dean leaves to become the Arch-Chancellor of Brasnak College in the nearby city of Pseudopolis. The Wizards have featured prominently in 9 Discworld books and have also starred in the Science of Discworld series and the short story A Collegiate Casting Out of Devilish Devices. Tiffany Aching. Tiffany Aching is a young apprentice witch and star of a series of Discworld books aimed at young adults. Her stories often parallel mythic heroes' quests, but also deal with Tiffany's difficulties as a young girl maturing into a responsible woman. She is aided in her task by the Nak-Mak Fiegel, a gang of blue-tattooed, 6-inch-tall, hard-drinking, loud-mouthed pixie creatures also called the We Free Men, who serve as her guardians. Both Granny Weatherwax and Nanny Og have also appeared in her stories. She has, to date, appeared in 4 novels. Major characters in the series include Miss Tick, who discovered Tiffany, Anagramma Hawkin, Petulia Gristle, and Nak-Mak Fiegel chieftain Rob Anybody. Moist von Lipwig. Moist von Lipwig is a professional criminal and con man to whom Havelock Veterinery gives a second chance after staging his execution, recognizing the advantages his jack-of-all-trades abilities would have to the development of the city. After setting him in charge of the Ankh-Morpork post office and going postal, to good result, Veterinery ordered him to clear up the city's corrupt financial sector in making money. A third book, Raising Steam, published on November 7, 2013, features Lipwig's further exploits as a pioneer to the newly invented locomotive. Other characters in the series include Adora Beldearhart, Lipwig's acerbic, chain-smoking wife. Gladys, a golem who develops a strange crush on Lipwig, Stanley Howler, a mildly autistic young man who was raised by peas and becomes the Disc's first stamp collector, and the very old junior postman Grote, who never got promoted to senior postman because there was never a postmaster alive long enough to do so. Discworld Cultures. Several other books can be grouped together as other cultures of Discworld books. They may contain characters or locations from other arcs, typically not as a main protagonist or antagonist but as a supporting character or even a throwaway reference. These include Pyramids, Small Gods, and Monstrous Regiment. Characters. Short descriptions of many of the notable characters that Pratchett has populated Discworld with can be found on the following pages. Bibliography, novels, future works, Pratchett has occasionally hinted at other possible future Discworld novels. These include Scouting for Trolls, a fifth Tiffany Aching novel, short stories. There are also a number of short stories by Pratchett based in the Discworld, including published miscellaneous such as the fictional game Origins of Thud. All are available in the 2012 anthology A Blink of the Screen as well as in the following locations: Trollbridge in After the King, Stories in Honor of J.R.R. Tolkien. Reprinted in the Mammoth Book of Comic Fantasy edited by Mike Ashley. Available online, Theatre of Cruelty. Available online, The Sea and Little Fishes and Legends, anthology of novellas taking place within popular fantasy cycles edited by Robert Silverberg, Death and What Comes Next. Available online, A Collegiate Casting Out of Devilish Devices. Available online, 7 of the short stories or short writings were also collected in a 2004 compilation of the majority of Pratchett's known short work named Once More with Footnotes. Additionally, another short story Turntables of the Night is set in England but features death as a character. It is available online and in both anthologies. Maps. Although Terry Pratchett has said, there are no maps. You can't map a sense of humor. There are 4 maps: The Streets of Ankh-Morpork, The Discworld Map, A Tourist Guide to Lanka, and Death's Domain. The first 2 were drawn by Stephen Player, based on plans by Pratchett and Stephen Briggs. The third is a collaboration between Briggs and Kidby, and the last is by Paul Kidby. All also contain booklets written by Pratchett and Briggs. Twin cities. Several Discworld locations have been twinned with real-world towns and cities. Wincanton, in Somerset, UK, for example, is twinned with Ankh-Morpork, and the town is the first to name streets after their fictional equivalents. Science books. Pratchett has also collaborated with Ian Stewart and Jack Cohen on 4 books, using the Discworld to illuminate popular science topics. Each book alternates chapters of a Discworld story and notes on real science related to it. The books are, The Science of Discworld, The Science of Discworld 2, The Globe, The Science of Discworld 3, Darwin's Watch, The Science of Discworld 4, Judgment Day, quiz books. 2 Discworld quiz books have been compiled by David Langford, The Unseen University Challenge, parodying the TV quiz show University Challenge, The Weakest Link, parodying the TV quiz show The Weakest Link, Diaries. Most years see the release of a Discworld diary and calendar, both usually following a particular theme. The diaries feature background information about their themes. Some topics are later used in the series. The concept of female assassins and the character of Miss Alice Band were 2 notable ideas that first appeared in the Assassin's Guild yearbook. The Discworld Almanac The Year of the Prawn has a similar format and general contents to the diaries. Other books. Other Discworld publications include, The Discworld Companion, an encyclopedia of Discworld information, compiled by Pratchett and Briggs. An updated version was released in 2003, titled The New Discworld Companion. A further updated version was released in 2012, titled Turtle Recall, The Discworld Companion. So far. The Discworld Portfolio, a collection of Paul Kidby's artwork, with notes by Pratchett. Nanny Ogg's Cookbook, a collection of Discworld recipes, combined with etiquette, language of flowers etc., written by Pratchett with Stephen Briggs and Tina Hanan. The Art of Discworld, another collection of Paul Kidby's art. The Discworld Almanac, an almanac for the Discworld year, in the style of the diaries and the cookbook, written by Pratchett with Bernard Pearson. Where's My Cow? A Discworld picture book referenced in Thud. And Wintersmith, written by Pratchett with illustrations by Melvin Grant. The Unseen University cutout book, Build Your Own Unseen University, written by Pratchett with Alan Batley and Bernard Pearson, published October 1, 2006. Wit and Wisdom of Discworld, a collection of quotations from the series. The Folklore of Discworld, a collaboration with British folklorist Jacqueline Simpson, discussing the myths and folklore used in Discworld. The World of Pooh, another in-universe children's book, referenced in Snuff. The Complete Ankh-Morpork City Guide, the Complete Guide to the City of Ankh-Morpork, Mrs. Bradshaw's Handbook reading order, rather than reading the books in publication order, Another approach would be to read each storyline chronologically. The books take place roughly in real time and the characters' ages change to reflect the passing of years. The meeting of various characters from different narrative threads indicates that all the main storylines take place around the same period of time. Many stories nominally stand alone but, nonetheless, tie in heavily with main storylines. Many of these stand-alone stories deal with the development of the city of Ankh-Morpork into a technologically and magically advanced metropolis that readers will find analogous to real-world cities. For example, The Truth catalogues the rise of a newspaper service for the city, the Ankh-Morpork Times. Some main characters may make cameo appearances in other books where they are not the primary focus. For example, City Watch members Iron Fanderson and Angua appear briefly in Going Postal, Making Money, and Unseen Academicals. A number of characters, such as members of staff of Unseen University and Lord Vitir Neri, appear prominently in many different storylines without having specific storylines of their own. Krzysztof K. Kietzman has assembled a graphical suggested reading order broken down according to the various story threads and cross-thread appearances by characters. Adaptations. Stage adaptations of 15 Discworld novels have been published. The adaptations are by Stephen Briggs, and were first produced by the Studio Theatre Club in Abingdon, Oxfordshire. They include adaptations of The Truth, Masquerade, Mort, Wide Sisters and Guards. Stage adaptations of Discworld novels have been performed on every continent in the world, including Antarctica. A stage version of Eric, adapted for the stage by Scott Harrison and Lee Harris, was produced and performed by the Dreaming Theatre Company in June-July 2003 inside Clifford's Tower, the 700-year-old castle keep in York. It was revived in 2004 in a tour of England along with Robert Rankin's The Anti-Pope. Small Gods was adapted for the stage by Ben Saunders and was performed in February 2011 at the Assembly Rooms Theatre, Durham by UWG Productions and members of Durham Student Theatre. UWG Productions also staged an adaptation of Thief of Time, adapted by Tim Foster, in February 2013 at the Assembly Rooms Theatre. Film and television. Due in part to the complexity of the novels, Discworld has been difficult to adapt to film. Pratchett is fond of an anecdote of a producer attempting to pitch an adaptation of Mort in the early 1990s but was told to lose the death angle by US backers. A list of adaptations include, Terry Pratchett's Hogfather. In the UK, Sky One commissioned a £6 a million made-for-television adaptation of Hogfather with David Jason playing the role of Albert. It was first broadcast in December 2006 and features Terry Pratchett in a brief cameo role as the Toymaker. Terry Pratchett's The Colour of Magic, David Jason played Rincewind. This adaptation aired in the UK over Easter 2008 and also features Terry Pratchett in a brief cameo role as an astrozoologist. Terry Pratchett's Going Postal, produced by Sky One. It stars Richard Coyle, David Suchet, Charles Dance, Claire Foy, Steve Pemberton, Andrew Sachs and Tamsin Greig. Terry Pratchett also appears in a cameo role as a postman. It was first broadcast in May 2010. Lords and Ladies, a fan movie adaptation of Lords and Ladies by Almost No Budget Films was completed in Germany. Mort, a fan movie adaptation of Mort by Orange Cow Production, 2001, 26 minutes. Run Rincewind Run. A Snowgum Films original story created for Nullus Anxietas. Stars Troy Larkin as Rincewind, and features Terry Pratchett as himself. Cosgrove Hall produced 6x 30-minute animated adaptations of 2 books for Channel 4 in 1996. These were made available on DVD and VHS in the US from Acorn Media, though they are now out of print. Both series are available on a DVD box set in Region 2. Soul Music a Euro starring Christopher Lee as Death, also featuring Neil Morrissey and Graham Crowden. First episode broadcast on May 18, 1997. The soundtrack to Soul Music was also released on CD. Wide Sisters a Euro starring Christopher Lee as Death, also featuring Annette Crosby, June Whitfield, Jane Horrocks and Les Dennis. First episode broadcast on December 28, 1998. A list of adaptations in pre-production include Troll Bridge. Australian group Snowgum Films has completed principal photography and is working through post-production. The We Free Men. In January 2006 it was announced that Sam Raimi would direct an adaptation of The We Free Men for Sony Pictures, but he then moved on to other projects. On November 1, 2013, Rhianna Pratchett announced on Twitter that she was adapting We Free Men into a feature-length film. The Watch, Pratchett's daughter, Rhianna, announced in August 2012 an establishment of a new production company, Narrativia, which will produce a 13-part TV series based on the Ankh-Morpork City Watch. Terry Pratchett's Unseen Academicals, announced commencement of production in 2011. Radio. There have been several BBC radio adaptations of Discworld stories, including White Sisters, Guards, Mort, and Small Gods. On February 27, 2008, BBC Radio 4 aired the first of a 5-part, weekly adaptation of Night Watch. These were also repeated in April 2011 and March 2014. Pratchett's latest work to feature on Radio 4 is the 1990 Discworld novel, Eric. The 4-part dramatized adaptation started on March 6, 2013. Audiobooks. Most of Pratchett's novels have been released as audio cassette and latterly CD audiobooks. Unabridged recordings of books won €23 in the above list, except for books 3, 6 and 9, are read by Nigel Planer. Books 3 and 6 are read by Celia Emery. Book 9 and most of the books from 24 onward are read by Stephen Briggs. Abridged versions are read by Tony Robinson. Fantastic Audio also recorded 2 Discworld novels, Thief of Time and Night Watch. The audiobooks are available for download via online retailers in unabridged format, with some abridged versions also available. Comic books. The Color of Magic, The Light Fantastic, Mort and Guards have been adapted into graphic novels. Merchandise. Various other types of related merchandise have been produced by cottage industries with an interest in the books, including Stephen Briggs, Bernard Pearson, Bonsai Trading, Paul Kidby and Clarecraft. Musical releases include Dave Greenslade, Terry Pratchett's From the Discworld, 1994. Keith Hopwood, Soul Musical Terry Pratchett's Discworld, 1998, soundtrack to the animated adaptation of soul music. Pratchett co-authored with Film Masters 2 role-playing game supplements for Discworld, utilizing the GURPS system, GURPS Discworld, GURPS Discworld also, video games, The Color of Magic, Discworld Mud, Discworld 2, Missing Presumed. Discworld Noir, Discworld, The Color of Magic, miniature figures. A selection of figures has been produced by MicroArt Studio. The board game Thud was created by puzzle compiler Trevor Truran. 2 further board games were released in 2011. The first, Guards, a Discworld board game, was created by designers Leonard Boyd and David Brashaw and published by Z-Man Games. The first copies went on sale on July 8, 2011 at the North American Discworld Convention, exactly 20 years after Leonard had conceived the first draft in 1991. The box cover and 90 Discworld character cards were illustrated by Stephen Player. The second, Discworld, Ankh-Morpork, was designed by Martin Wallace and released by Treeford Games in 3 different editions, each with different content and different game boards. The collectible editions also have different numbering system. A follow-up game called The Witches, also by Wallace, will be released by Treefrog in September 2013. The card game Cripple Mr. Onion is adapted from the novels. See also Discworld Characters, Discworld Geography, Other Dimensions of the Discworld, the North American Discworld Convention, References. External links, Discworld Wiki, Discworld and Pratchett Wiki, Discworld Covers Wiki book covers collection from all over the world. Discworld Convention, the UK Discworld Convention, NADCON, the North American Discworld Convention, Nullus Anxietas, the Australian Discworld Convention, Discworld monthly email newsletter / website about Terry Pratchett and Discworld. Gallery of Terry Pratchett's Discworld TV dramatization.